Greetings and salutations, David Duford here. I'm here with Evan McGuffey. He is a part-time telesales agent in our final expense free leads division, getting free leads. And he is here today because last month in August, he wrote just over 20,000 in final expense business remotely with free leads on a part-time basis. So we're here to talk about it. And we're going to learn a little bit about who Evan is, how he got into the business, why he's working with us, and kind of how he's integrating this into his pretty cool lifestyle, as you'll see us talking about here in a second. Evan, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get in insurance?
Oh, man. Okay, we're going way back. So COVID hits.
Not that old.
Well, yeah, fair. COVID hits 2020. I'm living in Las Vegas. I went to a meeting where the young guy from showed me that I could do it, got my license, and then COVID hit 2 weeks later. I lost my job working on the strip in Vegas, and I got nothing else to do, and there's a bunch of final expense leads. So March of 2020, I hit the ground running, pounding the pavement, a lot of Facebook final expense with, I don't know, I was paying like 20, 25, $30 at the time for each lead.
Right.
And it was a lot of money to me, as just swipe the credit card and think about it later. And it worked out. My first month I think I wrote 20,000 and probably issue paid a little bit less than that. And then the next month I wrote 20,000. And my father, for about my entire life, he told me two things, David. He told me, one, son, no matter what you do, if you're going to have kids, get married first. The second thing that he told me throughout my entire childhood, right? I'm an only child. All the attention's on me. First thing first. Second thing is, son, no matter what you do not get into insurance. So, I don't know if I ever told you that, David, but
no, I never heard that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had that in my mind. And so I didn't tell my parents that I got into insurance until after I wrote 20,000, because I knew that what he was going to say is like, dude, what? You didn't listen to me. I've been telling you for 20, 23 years, don't do insurance. But I knew that I could do it, and I didn't want to inherit those limiting beliefs. So he can't, what he doesn't know can't hurt him. And then I told him that I wrote 20K and showed up. But and it felt great, and he loves me, and we're all good now. But that's how I got into insurance, with a little chip on my shoulder. And sometimes it takes that. And that was the fire number. But it was also good because I needed to get my life together and not making $100 a day, running drunk people from club to club on the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah, so, a big upgrade. That's for sure. Well, cool. So you started face-to-face, right? And then you eventually got into Medicare with us a couple of years ago. And you were doing face-to-face with that as well, right?
Yeah. So when I got into life, I was with F doing it face-to-face, even during COVID, which was kind of wild. Thinking back on it, it's like,
yeah.
Probably should have just done Telesales. But anyway, so it was all good. And I was a Hall of Fame producer with them. Right, I actually paid 405K in a 12-month period, which was awesome. And I got to speak at convention, and started building up a team. And then I found Medicare Millennials, who happened to be working with you, Ethan Glidewell, doing Medicare. And I did a video. Well, I mean, I've spoken at a couple other events that you've done in the past. And one of those videos did really well, where I explained how I did 600 Medicare apps for 12 months, which was awesome because, as you know, David, final expense is like selling with a weight vest on. Not impossible, but you're going to get jacked. And then I went into Medicare, and I just kept my same lead volume, kept my same lead spend. I just, instead of asking for routing an account and social security number, I was asking for the Medicare card, the Medicare number, and signing up for something better than what they had, if possible.
Right.
So production went up, and that was awesome for 2 years. And then, I mean, I could talk about how I got here.
Yeah. So you were crushing it in Medicare. Why did you switch? And then again, the question everybody's wondering is like, why are you on a free lead program?
Yeah. So great questions. With Medicare, I was really good at getting my clients. I wasn't that great at saving them, retaining them. So I had a developer build me a program to tell me in real time that my clients were getting switched. That would later become Medizus. And Medizus, we got an API with CMS, meaning that we got a data feed from there, and we had to go through HIPAA and SOC 2 auditing. And this was me going from insurance agent to software founder, which I didn't know that I was going to do when I first, tried to build the prototype myself. So we launched that last October, and it did phenomenally well. A lot of agents associated with DeFord Insurance Group, but a lot of agents from across the country were having awesome success with it. And as a company, it was a very, very healthy company financially, brand wise. Everything was good. People loved us. We went through 2 audits with CMS last year in order to get access. And then we went through another review in April. Everything was good. But all of a sudden, at the end of May, our data access got cut off.
Yeah.
And we didn't know why. And that was our main value add to our customers, because we were letting them know in real time that their clients were getting flipped. And if you're from final expense, that's pretty standard. But in Medicare, you don't find out until the next month normally. And then Medizus came along and it's like, oh, we'll tell you in real time.
Yeah,
before
huge value proposition to the Medicare agents.
Huge. Yeah. I mean, the success stories were ridiculous. People saving 50 clients in a monthly.
Yeah. Yeah. Add that up over many years and, that's 6 figures, in renewal income. To say the least. So that went away. And so you're in this position now, I guess, having to get back to work. So what drove you as far as what we do at the Freely Telesales program? Like, why did you do this versus go to another agency or buy your own leads and do your own thing?
Well, I had a lot of contracts with you anyway. But 2, I always said to myself, if I was going to get back into final expense or life insurance, I would do it telesales, because when I was doing it face to face, I was successful, but I worked a lot. Single, no kids. I put in 70 hours a week for like 2 years, just straight. And it was a lot of driving. I put 30,000 miles on my car in 1 year.
Right.
And so I always said to myself, and there was some fear there too, because my fear was, if I'm not meeting with them in person, I can't close, or like they won't trust me. Which was true because I believed it. But I always knew, and I would hear like, all right, well, there's probably somebody out there doing it successfully over the phone. But nobody around me was doing it.
Right.
And then I saw that I was running Medizus, and I saw you guys doing your thing with Freely Test. So I was like, oh, that's pretty badass. If I was going to go back into the field, and we were relying on a CMS data point, we're relying on the government. Dude, they could take that. Like, we didn't violate any terms, but they could take that out if they wanted to, if they just pull a string and just keep going. So my worst fears came true, and that happened. And I already had in my head, like, all right, well, I'll probably just see what this whole telesales free leads thing is about. The other thing was that I went free leads. I could have done paying the leads, but I was like, I just want to sell. I don't want to think about the leads.
Yeah.
Like, when I was doing life insurance, it was 60% like other stuff and 40% selling the insurance.
Right.
I'm like, I just want to sell the insurance and get paid.
Right.
And if I have to pay somebody to handle the 60% of the extra work, if I have to pay them directly or I have to pay them in lower comp and they get a higher spread, then I'll do that. But I just want to like put the away and go into a model like that. And so that's when I got started with you.
That's kind of the hard thing for a lot, even for me, because I'm the same. I come from the same background, buying leads, running appointments. It's very hard to wrap your head around. I'm going to give up comp. It's like I'm giving up comp, but what do you get for that, right? And there are people like many of our top producers, like Marcus, Josh. Marcus wrote 70,000 last month. Marcus around 50. They all used to buy their own leads, and they never wrote as much as they did now because they've isolated, allowed us to take care of that, and they can just sell, right? And there's something freeing about that for certain individuals where they just, all they have to do is just sell. It's nice. And yeah, it's a little lower comp, but at the gain of potentially more production, is kind of how I would pitch it.
Yeah.
That sound like fair to you in that assessment?
No, that's exactly right. And when I switched from final expense to Medicare, I had to make that same analysis because I was going from, $800 or $1,000 an app to $300 an app.
Yeah.
So in my mind, well, if I double my production, then it'll all even out. And so I already knew that. And when I went into Medicare, I doubled my production. My cash flow was arguably better than it was doing final expense before, right? The only reason that I didn't get back into Medicare this time around was because I needed cash. Cash flow is king. And this time of the year, selling Medicare is terrible. I mean, you get paid like 100, 150. So, I mean, I'm probably selling more. I'm probably more effective now as far as apps and AP goes. If we're comparing like time to apps and AP
Mhm.
now than back at like
That's
back in the day.
awesome. That's awesome. So, so what is part-time? So I get this a lot from agents. Like, okay, what is part-time? Is it 10 hours a week? Is it 35 hours a week? Like, tell us like what a day in the life of selling part-time final expense over the phone looks like for you with us.
Yeah, I mean, I might be a little different because I am working on some other software projects, and you're. I don't think there's many other agents in the agency that are doing that. But for me, my schedule is between like 9 and 12. I have Medizus related or contract related like meetings, and then after like between 12 and 12:30, I start hitting the phones with Dig. So I mean, some weeks I'm part time. Like I'm obviously part time this week because I'm traveling, but there are some weeks too where I put in 40 hours, 45
Okay.
hours,
Okay.
and I do like 2,000 dials. So my activity is definitely up there, but just the flexibility of being able to throttle that week on, week off. Because the other nice thing with doing free leads is I mean, I don't have to pay for the leads,
Yeah.
and there's 50 other, 60 other producers that can handle more leads this day, less leads this day. So if I need to throttle it down, it's a lot easier, or throttle it up, it's a lot easier because you guys just turn on the faucet, or you just program into Kixie, right? But doing it broker side, not I mean broker side's awesome, and no shade to anybody doing it that way,
Sure.
but just for
Right.
me, it was really hard for me to take a week off because if I took a week off, I still had leads coming in, and then I felt bad about not hitting those leads because they would go cold if I didn't hit them after a week. And then I had the cash flow come in, and then it was just like catch up getting back. Whereas this, it's just like throttle, throttle, throttle. You're
Yeah.
gonna, I'm in Switzerland, like
Yeah.
throttle it down for a week, and then
Right.
next week when I'm back, like I'll just hit it hard. I'll put in 50 hours.
Yeah, it's cool. Like the way that we have the lead system structured, it's a pool system. So you're not responsible for any leads, right? But as soon as you want to work, you're tied into a pool of just an endless supply. A lot of people ask me, like, how many leads do I get? I'm like infinity, like as many as you want to work, because we've had so many that we've developed over the last almost year, and we're getting more and more every single day. There's more leads than we have agents to work them. Let's put it that way. So if you're concerned about staying busy, part-time or full-time, that's what's cool. You just dial in. You don't have to worry about your lead flows throttling up or down, like you're saying. You just plug in and go. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us. So you're on. I don't know if we call it vacation. You're out of the country. How do you work while you're out? Because I think that's a cool thing that maybe a lot of people don't think about. Like when you sell remotely, like with us at least, you're not required to report to an office. You can do this at your home, but realistically, you can do this anywhere in the world. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background of kind of like what you're doing, what your plan is, and how that all relates?
Yeah, this is going to be my first time selling internationally. So I've sold from different offices when I'm visiting my parents, stuff like that in the States. But I just arrived this morning and a bit jet lagged, so I'm taking today and tomorrow off. But I'll hit it, I don't know, 3 hours on the phones, 4 hours on the phones on Thursday and Friday. Um and I mean, as long as the time works and I have internet connection and I can dial the phone, I'll be okay. And my clients, I mean, unless they ask me where I'm at, then we have a cool story to tell. They're not going to get sketched out by it.
Right.
So, I mean, selling from different offices, different places on the road in the U.S. hasn't been any different than selling from, my spare bedroom in my boxers. Like, as long as I look good from the top up, I'm not pulling anything right now. But,
I'm just
you know,
glad you're wearing boxers. Now, me, I'd be naked.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, that was a beautiful thing because when I told myself, hey, if I get back into final expense or life insurance or even Medicare for that matter, I'm going to do it remotely
Right.
because I'm going to be tied down. And if I have to give up full comp, which you're not really doing because you produce more anyway,
Yeah.
um, or being able to build, which you can kind of still do here,
Right.
it's worth like that flexibility. That's where it's at.
So what last question, you from being in the face-to-face world to now transitioning to telesales, what is it the differences in how you sell or who you're talking to or the overall experience, do you think you've already told us you feel like you're writing more, which is great, but if you can kind of compare and contrast the difference, I think that's helpful for the new person out there that's like, should I sell remotely or face to face? Kind of explain the pros and cons of both.
Yeah. I mean, the first thought that just came to mind was face to face, frankly, is way more fun. I really enjoyed the adventure part of it. I really liked meeting my clients in person, shaking their hand, and being able to look at their policy, or just being able to like, can you grab your checkbook and then look at it, like, from across the room. There's a lot of power and there's a lot of fun because at the end of the day, if you're in it just for the money, you're gonna have a miserable time because you're not dealing with the most efficient people. So you got to love them. You got to love the journey and love the adventure. And there's no 2 days that were the same.
Right.
And pretty epic stories to tell behind the scenes with your friends or other agents. So you have that aspect of it from Final Expense, face to face, which I don't necessarily miss because it's a trade off, but it's just something that isn't there anymore. With telesales, I have no commute. I don't, and with telesales free leads, I don't have any lead spend. So all of that mental bandwidth and financial bandwidth that went towards spending money on leads, I was spending about $1,500 a week on leads. I was writing, I don't know, 8,000 a week. That just goes away. No more appointment setting, right? So that was really nice too, because appointment setting is a pain in the ass. We're doing one call closes with the DeFord Insurance Group,
Yep.
right? So I call them up and 80-90% of the time I'll close them on the phone. Not 80% of all my closes are one call.
Well, yeah,
Some of them, to be fair, have I have 2 calls or even 3 calls, but
sure.
there's only been like 1 3 calls. But
Right.
some of them I do need a follow up if they're more educated and know what the hell they're talking about. But there's no appointment setting, which is really nice. Um, and then as far as like the people that we're talking to, the premiums and getting the approval, I mean, I thought that people wouldn't be able to trust me, but I would go into homes in person and then I would sit down with somebody. I'm like, where'd you get your current policy? And they said, hey, I got it over the phone.
Yeah.
There are some times that I had a conservation event, right? I lost the policy to another agent and that agent took it over the phone.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, like, okay, it's possible and people do trust over the phone. Um, at the end of the day, just set them up with a really good policy, and that's the way that you can feel. That's the way that I feel certain that I got them the best plan, and that'll stay on the books as best I can. I can't put the money in their bank account so that when they draft it, it goes through.
Right.
Right? There's certain things out of our control, even with face to face. Telesales is not. It's like right there. It's like right underneath being able to build the trust in person.
Yeah, I look at it, and I had all the same objections when I first got into, before we got into telesales. Like, it's harder. You're not going to convert as many. There's a skepticism barrier, but it's just like anything. There's pros and there's cons, and there's skill sets that you have to learn to overcome some of that potential, traction, right? And you've proven it works, and you've come from face to face where you've been on the other side of it. Long story short, guys, I mean, if you're out there looking for a place to join, follow your gut. Like, if you're a true face-to-face person, do face-to-face. Like, if you just feel strongly about that, but don't feel deterred if you're like, I don't know, I feel like telesales would be better for me, but is it as effective? It absolutely is. We did
Yeah.
1.4 million as an agency last month, and probably 95% of that production was over the phone, and it
Really?
sticks. Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. We've totally 95% of our applicants now are telesales. I mean, it's not that we don't want face-to-face agents, just nobody really wants to do it anymore. It's amazing how so much has changed in the last, since COVID.
Yeah. And when I say like it was always an adventure and there were no 2 days were the same and it was a lot of fun meeting my clients, it was also, I mean, listen, it was painful sometimes too, because I'd be an hour into an appointment where I drove an hour to get there. I wasn't able to help them. And I'm like, God, damn it, if I just talked to them over the phone,
Yeah.
I could be, just on to the next one. Just click.
Yeah, and
Read.
and look, there's some crazy stuff we see in the final expense world, and that is one thing that you miss. You kind of hear people, you don't see it, and then get into it. Like, it's, I don't know if I miss it per se, but they made great stories, right? So
Don't miss any raccoons in the kitchen or nothing like that.
smell of dog piss and sofas and sitting in that nice and soft. Nice. Ugh.
Yep, yep, yep. I feel like,
Have we sold y'all on telesales yet? I mean, keep going if you need.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like you could smell the living room through the phone. But
Yeah.
I've worked with other producers, and I might be talking to the right guy here about starting a reality TV show
Yeah.
where go around following final expense face-to-face agents and just seeing what it's like, because we have
Yeah.
some pretty good stories. Some people wouldn't even believe it,
Oh, I know.
and it'd be pretty cool, the people that we meet.
Yeah. Well, Evan, I appreciate you, man. If you guys out there are interested in joining or learning about joining the Dig Agency, just go to davidduford.com. The link's below in the chat. We recruit agents who are brand new to the business or experienced, like Evan is. You don't even have to have sold anything before. We recruit based off of personality and character. We do all the training. We'll train you from ground zero. Again, we have free leads available for those who want to do remote telesales. That's really our emphasis and focus nowadays. So again, go to davidduford.com to learn more. And Evan, appreciate you, man. Have fun in Switzerland.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.